On February 2nd, Groundhog Day crowds gathered at the Staten Island Zoo for a lighthearted tradition. Cameras were rolling. A big group of kids was in front watching, and no one expected that a harmless ceremony would turn into one of New York City's strangest controversies. That was a Sunday. Most had their day off and were able to watch. And it looks like right now, 2026, Groundhog Day, which was yesterday, was pretty much a disappointment for most in the North since Chuck saw his shadow and declared that there would be 6 more weeks of winter. However, it is yet to be known if that is true. I think it is due to the weather these days, especially with the winter storms we've been having. No one expected that a harmless ceremony would turn into one of New York City's strangest controversies. This is the story of Staten Island Chuck and a groundhog who died in his place. Staten Island Chuck, officially named Charles Hogg, is the groundhog used each year at the Staten Island Zoo to predict the arrival of spring. They are usually different groundhogs, but they all receive the same name. Like his more famous counterpart in Punxsutawney, Chuck is a local icon, a symbol of tradition, ceremony, and civic pageantry. But in 2014, the groundhog who appeared on stage was not Chuck at all. During the 2014 Groundhog Day ceremony, then New York City Mayor Bill DeBlasio was handed the groundhog as part of the tradition. As photographers snapped pictures and spectators looked on, the animal began to squirm. Moments later, the groundhog fell from the mayor's hands onto the hard ground below. In a full view of the crowd, zoo officials later revealed that the animal who fell was a female groundhog named Charlotte. The mayor dropped her on national television, a stand-in for Chuck. Chuck himself was reportedly deemed too aggressive after biting former mayor Mike Bloomberg during a previous ceremony in 2009. Charlotte appeared shaken but visibly unharmed. The ceremony continued. At the time, the incident was treated as an awkward moment, not a fatal one just yet. Approximately 1 week later, on February 9th, 2014, Super Bowl Day, Charlotte was found dead in her enclosure at the Staten Island Zoo. A necropsy, the animal equivalent of an autopsy, was performed by the zoo's own veterinary staff. According to the veterinarian's findings, Charlotte died from acute internal injuries. Experts stated that the injuries were consistent with trauma from a fall. Those zoo officials initially suggested it was unlikely that the short drop during the ceremony caused her death. What raised eyebrows was not just the findings, it was the silence. The zoo did not publicly disclose Charlotte's death for several months, a delay that fueled accusations of a cover-up and intensified media scrutiny. Once the story became public, it exploded. Social media users and commenters jokingly and sometimes angrily referred to the incident as the murder of Staten Island Chuck, placing blame squarely on Mayor DeBlasio. Memes circulated, headlines went viral, late-night comedy shows picked it up. Despite the rhetoric, the incident was widely described by officials and experts as accidental and tragic, not intentional or criminal. No criminal investigation was opened. The necropsy was conducted internally within the zoo where she lived at. Despite widespread online claims, there were no lawsuits or court cases filed over her death. Silly stories about a $7.5 million wrongful death lawsuit circulated, targeting Mayor DeBlasio, but these were not real court filings. They were fake online posts. From the legal standpoint, this outcome is not surprising. The incident involved an animal at a zoo event, and civil lawsuits typically require a legally recognized injury or loss to a permanent or entity. Pro-animal wrongful death claims are rare and difficult to sustain, particularly when causation is uncertain. The zoo's position that Charlotte's death may not have been conclusively caused by the fall further weakened any potential negligence claim. I believe there should be civil litigation within this. What began as a lighthearted Groundhog Day tradition became a viral controversy, not because of criminal intent, but because of optics, timing, and secrecy. Charlotte's death remains one of the most infamous moments in modern New York City political folklore, a reminder that even the smallest incidents can spiral into national headlines. And while it's often remembered jokingly as a murder, the reality is far more mundane and far more tragic. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Staten Island Chuck's death. I hope you had a great Groundhog Day, and I hope you have a great month of February, especially with the Olympics coming up in 3 days and the Super Bowl coming up on the 8th. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.